Hello, and here comes a little bit of a film about the differences and similarities between English and Swedish. First of all, Swedish and English are both Germanic languages. This means that they come from the same language called Proto-Germanic, which existed over 2,000 years ago. So they once were the same language, Proto-Germanic. So remember this, that they're both Germanic languages, and this explains one of the reasons why they're similar. Another major similarity between English and Swedish is that they have the same loanwords in many cases, not always. So if we take a word such as formal, for instance, formal is formell in Swedish, and they both mean the same thing, and they both come from the French language. Another example is thesis. Thesis is theas in Swedish. Thesis and theas both come from Greek and Latin. So there are many loanwords in English and Swedish which come from the same language. Swedish has something that is rather different to English. It has inverted word order. So this is very common in Swedish. We use it very often, but not so often in English. It does occur. In questions, for instance, you can say, "Are you okay?" instead of "You are okay." And there are other instances too in which you can use inverted word order in English. But the main thing to remember is that inverted word order is very common in Swedish and not so common in English. This is a major difference. Another major difference between English and Swedish is that English uses the simple present. For instance, I swim every day. In this sentence, you see that swim is very simple. We don't say, I am swimming every day. That is not possible to say in English. We only say, I swim every day. And we say, I swim because it's an action that occurs over and over and over again. So it's a habit that you have. We use the simple present when you have a habit of doing something. The opposite of the present simple is the present continuous. Now this is, for instance, I'm swimming right now. It's happening at the moment. We don't say, I swim right now, as in the previous example. We say, I'm swimming or I am swimming right now. And that means that it's happening in the present moment. So Swedish doesn't really have this. You can say, jag håller på att simma just nu. But it's not necessary. You can say, jag simmar just nu, and that's perfectly okay. But in English, you cannot say, I swim right now. It sounds unnatural. It's incorrect. We say, I'm swimming right now. Another major difference between English and Swedish, and one which causes a lot of confusion, is false friends. We don't say fake friends, we say false friends. Now, some examples of false friends include gift, pink, blanket, and fabric. Now, gift in English is a present. You give someone a gift. But in Swedish, gift can be married or it can mean poison. So they have very, very different meanings in Swedish. Now, the second example, pink, means something very, very different in Swedish. In English, pink is rosa, the color. But pink in Swedish means pee, as in urine. It's very, very different. Then again, we have blanket. Blanket in Swedish may be confused with the word blankett. Blankett means form. So you sign a form or you fill in a form. But blanket means filt. It's something you cover yourself with. So they have very different meanings. Fabric in Swedish means tyg. But fabrik in English means factory. So fabric and fabrik mean very, very different things. And that's why they are false friends, because they look so similar, but they have completely different meanings. Another major difference between English and Swedish is that Swedish has grammatical gender, but English doesn't. So in Swedish, we have the word en. For instance, you can say en bil, en tavla, en elev, but you could never say ett elev, for instance. You have to say en elev, en tavla, en bil, right? And en is called common gender. This is the technical term for it. We talk about common gender nouns. So these are words that have to be en words. So tavla is always a common gender noun. It's never a neutral word. The opposite of en is et. Et is neutral gender. And neutral gender words include hus. You always say et hus, always et barn, always et problem. These are neutral gender nouns, which are not the same as common gender nouns. Now, there is no reason why one word should be et and another should be en in modern Swedish. It just is that way. Once upon a time, there were rules involved, but those rules no longer apply. So we just say en kvinna, ett barn, en man, ett hus. And these are common gender and neutral gender. Another difference between English and Swedish is that English has a and an. These indefinite articles work very differently to Swedish en and et. So for instance, a is only used before a consonant sound. For instance, a car, a house, a chicken. And this is because these words, house, car, and chicken, all start with consonant sounds. You can hear h, k, and ch. They are not vowels like a and o, for instance. The opposite of a is an. An means exactly the same thing as a, but an is used only before vowel sounds. For instance, animal, you must say an animal, an hour, an umbrella. You can never say a elephant or a umbrella. It must be an, because there is no consonant at the beginning of the nouns. So whenever there is a lack of a consonant, whenever you see a vowel, you must use an. All right, so that's all you have to know for the test. Please remember the words Germanic languages. Swedish and English are Germanic languages. Also remember that Swedish has inverted word order and that English has a distinction between the present continuous and the simple present tense. Also, there's something called grammatical gender in Swedish, which doesn't exist in English. So we have en and et. And in English, we make a distinction between a and an. A car, but an animal. And this is because of the sound at the beginning of the following word. So a car starts with a consonant. An animal starts with the vowel animal, not k. And then we have false friends like blanket and blanket. These sound the same but have very different meanings. All right, that's all.